Welcome to this deep dive. We're jumping straight in today, looking at something that, well, it impacts pretty much everyone trying to achieve anything significant.
Yeah, making real progress, actually getting to those goals you set.
Exactly. You know that initial buzz that I've got this feeling, but what happens when it just disappears?
Right, and that's what we're digging into. Why waiting around to feel motivated often means you just, well, wait around.
Our mission here is to pull out some real actionable strategies, stuff you can actually use to keep moving forward, even when motivation takes a nosedive. We're drawing from ideas around, motivation itself, but also discipline, willpower, environment, habits, the whole picture.
Think of it as a roadmap for consistent progress, built from understanding how we really work.
Okay, so let's start with motivation itself. It's so easy to think, oh, okay, I'll do it when I feel inspired.
Yeah, absolutely. We treat it like this magic button.
But the problem is, motivation it's a feeling, an emotion.
And feelings, well, they're not constant, are they? They're more like the weather.
That's a great analogy. Some days it's bright sunshine, you feel unstoppable, ready to tackle anything.
High motivation day.
Then you get those cloudy days, maybe even pouring rain, where getting out of bed feels like a huge win.
Right. And if you only act when it's sunny, you'll spend a lot of time indoors, metaphorically speaking.
We saw that anecdote about Liam, the guy who went all in on the gym.
Oh, yeah. New gear, membership, watching all the videos, total initial enthusiasm.
He started strong, totally fueled by that excitement.
But then, life happens. He missed a session, then another.
And that fire just kind of sputtered out. The gym became just another thing he used to do.
And Liam's story really highlights it, doesn't it? The feeling was there at first, but it wasn't a reliable engine for the long journey.
Which brings us to discipline. It sounds less exciting maybe, but it seems crucial.
It really is. Discipline, at its core, is simply doing it anyway.
Right.
Acting based on commitment, not your current mood.
Like that bricklayer example.
Exactly. Whether they feel great or terrible, hot day, cold day, they show up.
And they lay one brick, then another, and another.
And over time, that consistent, maybe sometimes boring action builds something significant. A whole wall. It wasn't built in one motivated burst.
That ties into that Denzel Washington quote, doesn't it? About commitment and consistency.
It does. Without commitment, you'll never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish. Consistency, that comes from discipline.
Enthusiasm gets you off the starting blocks, maybe.
But discipline is what carries you across the finish line, especially when things get tough.
Okay, now this idea about willpower being like a muscle really caught my eye. Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. The thinking here, based on research, is that willpower isn't some fixed trait you either have or don't.
Okay.
It's more like a capacity that you can actually train and strengthen. Just like lifting weights makes a muscle stronger, exercising your willpower can, over time, increase its strength.
That's empowering. But, like a muscle, can it get tired too?
Precisely. That's the other side of the coin. If you're constantly flexing that willpower muscle all day long on small things.
Like resisting checking your phone every 5 minutes. Or saying no to the office snacks.
Exactly. Or trying to focus when there's constant noise.
Yeah.
You're using up that mental energy. So when a bigger challenge comes along later, your willpower might already be depleted. You fatigued the muscle, so to speak.
So how do we build it without burning out, strategically?
Yeah, you start small. Like, you wouldn't go straight to lifting the heaviest weights in the gym. You start with tiny, achievable challenges for your willpower.
Like what? Give me an example.
Maybe it's deciding to wake up just 10 minutes earlier than usual. Or committing to not scroll your phone for the first 30 minutes after waking up.
Okay, things that are a little uncomfortable, but doable.
Exactly. Winnable challenges.
Yeah.
Each time you succeed, you get a little confidence boost, and you're actually strengthening that mental resilience. It's like doing reps for your willpower.
So those small wins build on each other, create momentum.
That's the idea. You prove to yourself, hey, I can resist that, or I can do this slightly harder thing. And that makes tackling the next slightly bigger challenge feel less daunting.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, shifting gears slightly, but related, this statement. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. Whoa.
It's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And really profound when you think about it.
It forces you to look around, right? Where do you usually fall off track?
Exactly. Is it the kitchen with the snacks readily available? Is it the comfy couch when you know you should be working out or studying? Is it having your phone right next to your bed?
Guilty as charged on the phone? Probably. So what's the principle?
The analogy used is like trying to swim against a really strong current.
Hmm.
You might have strong willpower initially, you might be a good swimmer, but if the environment, the current, is constantly pushing you backwards, eventually you're likely to get tired and give in.
So it's less about having superhuman resistance.
And more about shaping your environment so it supports your goals rather than actively working against them.
Okay, so practical terms, what does that look like?
Well, simple things. Want to read more? Don't hide the book in a drawer. Put on your pillow or your nightstand.
Make it obvious.
Right. Trying to eat better. The easiest way is often just not buying the junk food in the first place. Remove the temptation.
Out of sight, out of mind. Somewhat.
Need to focus. Turn off notifications. Put the phone in another room. Want to make sure you exercise. Lay out your workout clothes the night before.
So you're removing friction for the things you want to do and adding friction for the things you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That phrase, rely on design, not memory, or willpower, really captures it. You're setting up smart defaults for yourself.
Making the path of least resistance the path towards your goal. I like that.
It reduces the constant need to make effortful decisions.
And that flows really nicely into the next piece, habits and routines.
Yes, because routines are essentially how you automate discipline.
How so?
When something becomes a habit, a routine, you don't have that internal debate every single time. Should I do this now? Do I feel like it? It just happens.
Like brushing your teeth in the morning.
Yeah.
You don't really decide to do it, you just do it. It's automatic.
Precisely. The decision-making energy is saved because the behavior is ingrained.
So the goal is to make the important things, the things that move us forward, as automatic as brushing our teeth.
That's the ideal. Like the example of putting on your pre-laid out gym clothes as soon as you wake up. The decision was made the night before. The first step is effortless. The chance of actually going to the gym goes way up.
Okay, switching gears a bit again. The 40% rule, that sounds intense. What's that about?
Yeah, it comes from context like Navy SEAL training and elite athletics.
Okay.
The core idea is that when your mind is screaming at you, telling you you're completely spent, you have nothing left, you absolutely cannot go on.
Yeah.
You're actually only at about 40% of your true potential capacity.
Wow. Only 40%. That's a huge difference.
It is. So that feeling of hitting a wall, whether it's physical exhaustion during a workout or mental fatigue when studying, it's often your brain hitting the brakes before your body actually needs to.
Like a safety mechanism.
Exactly. Your brain wants to keep you safe, conserve energy, avoid discomfort. But that signal doesn't necessarily reflect your actual physical or mental limits. It's often just the edge of your comfort zone.
So real growth happens when you push past that initial "I'm done" signal.
That seems to be the idea. Discipline, in this light, is about recognizing that feeling, acknowledging it, but choosing to push just a little bit further anyway.
Like that story about James running his first marathon.
Yeah, hitting mile 15, absolutely wanting to quit. Everything hurt.
But he remembered that phrase.
Pain is a visitor. Let it not. Don't invite it to stay.
Yeah.
He acknowledged the pain, but didn't let it dictate his actions. He kept going.
And he finished. Changed his whole perception of what he could do.
It's a powerful reminder that we often have more in the tank, mentally and physically, than we give ourselves credit for.
We underestimate our resilience.
Definitely.
I really like this next framing. Choosing for the future self, not just for today. It feels kinder than just discipline.
It reframes the whole concept, doesn't it? Instead of seeing discipline as punishment or deprivation.
Which it can sometimes feel like.
Right. Instead, you see it as an act of kindness, of investment in the person you aspire to become.
So with each little decision point during the day, you ask yourself,
Will this choice serve my future self? Will it help me become the person I want to be? Or is it just about making my present self feel comfortable for a fleeting moment?
So it's about aligning today's actions with tomorrow's goals.
Precisely. Every time you choose the workout over the couch, the healthy meal over the junk food, the focused work over the distraction,
Yeah.
you're casting a vote for that future self.
That tree planting analogy was good too.
Yeah, the immediate gratification might be like picking a low-hanging fruit. Maybe not even very good fruit.
Right.
But the disciplined effort, the study, the practicing, the saving, that's like watering a tiny sapling. You don't see a huge tree overnight.
But with consistent watering, consistent discipline, that dream, that goal, that tree eventually grows strong.
It requires that patient, steady nurturing.
Okay, but let's be real. One of the biggest hurdles is just feelings, emotions, being tired, stressed, overwhelmed.
Oh, absolutely. Those feelings are powerful, and they can easily derail the best laid plans. It's so easy to say, I'm too tired, or I'm too stressed to deal with that right now.
And the key insight here isn't to pretend those feelings aren't real.
No, they are very real. But the insight is that they aren't always right. They aren't always accurate indicators of what we're capable of or what's best for us in the long run.
That Tony Robbins quote comes to mind. Let your decisions be guided by your goals, not your mood.
Exactly. Your mood is temporary, your goals, hopefully, are more enduring. We need to act based on our commitments, our values, not just the emotional weather of the moment.
That story about Maya starting her business. She felt nervous, right? Maybe inadequate.
Totally. Loads of self-doubt. But she had that little sticky note. Do it anyway.
A physical reminder.
Yeah, to focus on her why. Building something meaningful, providing for her family, believing in her potential rather than getting paralyzed by the how I feel right now. Her principles trumped her temporary feelings.
That's acting from your values? Okay, let's circle back to temptation, but from a slightly different angle. We talked environment, but the point was made. Temptation itself isn't the enemy.
Right, it's the setup. A poor environmental setup makes succumbing to temptation almost inevitable over time.
The cookie on the table analogy.
Perfect example. If a delicious cookie is sitting right in front of you all day,
Eventually, you're probably going to eat the cookie.
probably. You might resist 10 times, 20 times, but eventually willpower wears down. But if the cookie isn't even in the house?
No decision needed. No willpower expended.
Exactly. So the strategy is less about battling temptation head-on with sheer will, and more about designing your environment to minimize exposure in the first place.
So practical things like deleting the time-wasting apps off your phone.
Yep. Or prepping healthy meals so you're not scrambling and grabbing fast food. Keeping your phone charging in another room during work hours. Using website blockers or timers if needed.
It makes discipline feel less like a brutal fight and more like smart strategy.
That's a great way to put it. It's strategy, not just suffering.
And this connects to making discipline easier, right? Debunking the myth that it has to be this hardcore, miserable experience.
Yes, that image of this super disciplined person getting up at 4 a.m. for ice baths and grueling workouts, it's intimidating and frankly not necessary for most goals.
It can be off-putting, make it feel unattainable.
Exactly. Real, sustainable discipline is often much gentler, much smarter. It's about designing your life to make good choices easier, not harder.
Tiny steps again.
Tiny steps are key.
Yep.
Leaving that book by the pillow. Choosing a type of exercise you actually find enjoyable, not one you dread. Starting that meditation practice with just 2 minutes, not 20.
It's about building momentum, not creating massive resistance for yourself.
Right. Those small, consistent actions build on themselves. You don't need a life overhaul on day one.
So how do we lock these disciplined actions in? Turn them into habits that stick? Because that seems like the ultimate efficiency hack.
Habits are the end game for sustainable discipline. Think about it. Once something is a habit, like our teeth brushing example.
Willpower isn't really involved anymore.
Exactly. The behavior becomes automatic, freeing up your mental energy for other things.
Okay, so what's the process? How do we build these things deliberately?
The sources laid out a pretty clear 4-step process, often linked to James Clear's work. First, start ridiculously small.
Smaller than you think you need to.
Probably. 2 minutes of jogging, 10 push-ups, write 50 words. The goal initially isn't performance, it's just showing up. Make it so easy you can't say no.
Okay, step 1, make it easy. What's next?
Step 2, make it obvious. Create very clear cues for the habit.
Like the workout clothes laid out or the water bottle on the desk.
Precisely. Visual cues that trigger the behavior.
Yeah.
Leave your meditation cushion where you'll trip over it, practically.
Got it. Make it visible. Step 3.
Attach it to something you already do. This is often called habit stacking.
Piggybacking on existing routines.
Exactly. After I pour my morning coffee, I will read 1 page.
Yeah.
After I brush my teeth at night, I will do 2 minutes of stretching. You link the new desired habit to an existing automatic one.
Smart. Leverage what's already there. And the last step.
Step 4, track it. Keep a simple record. Put an X on a calendar. Use a habit tracker app. Whatever works.
Why is tracking so important?
It does a couple things. It provides immediate positive feedback. Seeing the chain of X's feels good. Keeps you accountable. And it makes you less likely to break the streak. Creates its own little reward loop.
That visual proof of progress can be really motivating in itself.
It really can. Consistency breeds consistency.
Okay, we've covered environment, willpower, habits. But what about the internal landscape? Emotional control was mentioned as key.
Hugely important. Because as we said, feelings like overwhelm, anxiety, fear, even just plain old tiredness or boredom. They can completely hijack our intentions.
And again, it's not about not feeling those things.
No, it's about recognizing them when they arise, but not automatically obeying them, understanding that a feeling isn't always a fact or a command.
Joe Dispenza's quote was powerful here. The moment you feel emotionally triggered is the greatest opportunity to grow.
Yeah, that resistance, that discomfort can actually be a signal that you're pushing boundaries, that growth is right around the corner if you can move through it.
Like Elena, the woman who was scared to start painting.
Exactly. Terrified, probably felt like she wasn't good enough. But she made a deal with herself, just 5 minutes.
Lowering the bar again?
Right. And often, once she started, just for those 5 minutes, she found herself getting into it, enjoying it, doing more. The action changed the feeling, not the other way around.
So it's about taking that next small step despite the feeling, not waiting for the feeling to change.
That's the essence of emotional control in this context. Acting based on your goals and values, even when your emotions are telling you to retreat or procrastinate.
Which leads us perfectly to the final point, the urgency of starting now.
Ah, yes. The classic I'll start Monday syndrome.
Or new year, new me, or I'll do it when I feel more motivated.
We're all masters of finding the perfect future time to begin. But the truth is,
that perfect time rarely, if ever, just shows up on its own.
exactly. And crucially, action often comes before confidence. You don't wait to feel ready, you start doing the thing. And that builds the feeling of readiness and competence.
The cold lake metaphor was used here.
Yeah, standing on the edge, dipping your toe in, agonizing. It just prolongs the discomfort.
Whereas just jumping in.
Gets it over with. The initial shock passes quickly, and then you're moving, you're adapting. Action creates its own momentum.
So the challenge to everyone listening is, what's one thing you've been putting off, waiting for the right time for?
And could you take one tiny action on it today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Even if it's just for 5 minutes.
Because ultimately, knowing all this stuff is great.
But wisdom, real progress, comes from doing, applying what you know.
Okay, let's try and tie this all together. The big takeaways seem to be, motivation is fickle, don't rely on it. Discipline is the bedrock, the consistency.
Willpower can be trained, like a muscle, but needs smart management. Your environment massively influences your behavior, shape it wisely.
Habits put discipline on autopilot. We're generally stronger and more capable than our minds tell us, especially when we feel like quitting that 40% rule.
Right. Every choice is a vote for your future self. Managing your emotions, not letting them dictate your actions, is crucial.
Setting up your environment is key to handling temptation. And discipline doesn't have to be brutal. Smart, small steps work best. Habits make it easier.
And finally, the time to start isn't later. It's now. Action first.
That's a really solid foundation for making progress.
It really shifts the focus from waiting for inspiration to actively building the systems and mindset for success.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening to mull over. Thinking about everything we've discussed, consider just one small area in your life. Where could applying just one of these strategies, maybe tweaking your environment slightly, starting one tiny habit, practicing that do it anyway muscle, create the biggest positive ripple effect for you?
What's that one leverage point that could unlock significant progress with consistent small effort?
Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We hope these ideas give you some practical tools to move forward towards whatever you're aiming for, one step at a time.